for our records. But Doctor, you've been in the United States for a while, and of course, you studied in Massachusetts as well, and now of course, you're living in Albuquerque. And I want to know, after reading this incredible book of poems, what inspired you to write about Albuquerque? Unless you have a book about Massachusetts up your sleeve, Albuquerque must have really impacted you in a way that's special enough to motivate you, to inspire you to write a beautiful book of poetry.
Thank you, Alex, for publishing this. It is an honor to work with you. This book is based on my experience. Your question was, why didn't I write a book on Massachusetts? First of all, I lived there for much shorter time than I lived in Albuquerque. I have lived in Albuquerque for a more amount of time than I've lived in Massachusetts. That's one thing. And the second thing is, in Massachusetts, I was a full-time graduate student with too many commitments in graduate school. I was writing poetry because poem is my expression, but I never was fully committed to it because I was committed to finishing my PhD.
Right, okay.
So, and the third thing, I think there is something about Albuquerque. My life underwent huge transformation in Albuquerque. I became a mother, and there are other things that happened. So many of them, this was more an existential sort of experience. I love Albuquerque, and I love the mountains. I love New Mexico. The Southwest is just incredible. People who have been there, they know how beautiful the scenario is. Mm-hmm. So all this together, the poems that were inside of me came out gushing.
Yes.
And there are other poems that you read, feminist poems, those were written before these were written, but these, Albuquerque, the space, the culture, the mountains, they inspired me to write. And I've been in Albuquerque for a long time. We are coming back and forth from Socorro since 1994, but we moved to Albuquerque in 2002, and since then I've been writing these poems. So overnight, they evolved a lot. And when I started writing the poems, I realized that I love Albuquerque, but in a very different way from what an Albuquerquean or a native-born American would write, because my spiritual experience as an Indian, as a Hindu, that enmeshed with the whole Southwestern culture. So the poems came out in that. But these analyses came later after writing the poems. So.
Yes, and I know you did go to grad school in Massachusetts, and that was a little bit of a jest, but the poems that you wrote here are very specific to Albuquerque, the mountains and the bosque, and that sounds very familiar to folks who live here. I've been here for a while now, and to native folks from New Mexico, but you add your special expression and you discuss Shiva dancing in Albuquerque, and I think that's such a beautiful title, Doctor. So we are going to have you read some of these wonderful poems. Of course, we're at communitypublishing.org, and you and I were discussing how because of the pandemic, there's the difficulties in buying the book through Amazon, where you will be able to buy it once the pandemic is clear. But we're gonna do some screen sharing. I'll show you how to buy it from Community Publishing's website, and folks can have the digital copy until the print copy can be shipped. But another thing I wanted to talk about, Doctor, was your affiliation with UNM and CNM, which, as an Albuquerquean, we know that those are the major learning institutions in town, and you probably could say for the whole state. And you're a feminist studies expert, Doctor, and we're looking forward to publishing a book of your feminist thoughts. But how does that work into your writing for this book, Shiva's Dance?
Yeah, that is a complex question. Actually, University of New Mexico and my college where I teach philosophy right now, Central New Mexico, they have been immensely helpful, supportive, and helped me through my struggles when I was struggling to bring up my daughter. There were things, tragedies like everyone else happened in my life. My father passed away. I couldn't be in India when he passed away, and that really affected me a lot. And they gave me space, especially my college, CNM, which really let me help me, support me in my endeavor to grow not only intellectually but also through these crises. Because the courses that I teach, they're so dear to me, my students, my colleagues especially, they're very supportive. And also they transformed me a whole lot in a way. I look at Albuquerque, look at human beings, look at globally. It's, yes, we are in Albuquerque, but we are also global. Everyone's global. There is a continuum of people's relationship to each other. About the feminist studies, yes, I do teach feminist courses, women gender centric courses, um, and they have influenced me because feminism is very much related to nature and people and community. And the nature in Albuquerque, I mean, a poet or a painter would be in, I mean, they would be blessed living in New Mexico with the incredible scenario we have around us. I think anyone can be a poet or a painter, especially a painter if you live in New Mexico. And these were all um, suppressed and they came out. I didn't get a lot of time writing those or painting when my daughter was growing up. I was busy teaching. But because of that atmosphere where art is very much encouraged, I could do the little that I could. So I'm very, very grateful to them. I'm grateful to Albuquerque and New Mexico. It has brought out whatever was lying hidden.
Yeah, Doctor, you mentioned that Albuquerque and New Mexico in general are places where folks can be inspired to create art, as you have. And we do have a unique circumstance, I guess, for lack of a better word, of artists. We have, of course, the traditional Native American folks that reside here for thousands of years. And then, of course, the Spanish influence, and then the more recent arrivals of folks. And of course, now we have folks from Asia here represented as well. And so for to have someone like you join our community of writers and artists of all types, I think it's a great honor for us. And you also paint, and so that's exciting to hear that you paint. And we have included, if you can see here, and I'll show a better screenshot
Came out, I
of you
think, very well.
painting. Talk to us really quick about what inspired some of these pieces. There's a there's a few in here that did you used here's this one. What did you use for this one? And tell us what the interpretation was there.
I used to pick up my daughter almost every day from Albuquerque Academy. I used to pick her up always from school. So I was to just sit there and look around. For example, I finished my class. I go there at say 2:30 or maybe a little earlier than that. And Albuquerque Academy has an incredible campus. I'd sit there in my car, and at that time I used to take my pastels, not always but sometimes. These are all pastel based. I love pastel work. I still do a lot of painting, pastel coloring. I did that mainly from in her campus and all around. I mean, as I said, everyone can be a painter in New Mexico if you just have paper, pencil, pastel, what not. And that's where I got all those paintings from. And just driving by from, I remember when we were in Socorro, that is also incredible. We were driving by, I would remember a scene or something, and then I come back and paint. If I'm not writing a poetry, I'm going painting. And when my daughter was growing up, she was my audience for my painting. She said, "Mom, aren't you painting?" And I would paint, and she would be happy. So that kind of brought this painting out. And thank you for doing that so beautifully. I mean, it came out in the print very well.
Yes, very pretty. And so it's a kind of like a mutual inspiration with your daughter, and that I
Yes.
think that's wonderful. I have my daughter who's, talking a little bit about the publishing company. We've won a few awards, starting with my daughter, whose children's book won the Children's Book of the Year a couple of years ago when she was only 10 years old. And so it's kind of a reciprocal inspiration with your children. And it's such a beautiful place. We've also published works by the inaugural Poet Laureate Hakeem Bellamy, the
Yes.
National Slam Poetry Champion Carlos Contreras. So we're the poetry from New Mexico School for the Arts up in Santa Fe. So we're adding you to that collection, and so we're so excited, and I'm so excited to work with you. We're going to have you recite a few poems, and I'll share the screen so folks can see while you read. But I'm also so thrilled beyond belief that you have brought a guest to perform tonight. You know, when you and I were planning this, we were going to use Albuquerque-based musicians and all that. But during our conversations, you told me about Mr. Das, and I'm so excited. He's an international star. His YouTube links, we'll share all of that information. But can you tell us a little bit something about Mr. Das?
Yes, he is here right beside me. I
We
don't
can
know if
have him scooch in a little bit. There you go. Hello,
yeah.
Mr. Das. Namaste.
He is a famous not only in India, but he is famous internationally. As you just said, he has performed in Boston, in New York, New Jersey,
Yes.
etc., and other places. And we were listening to his flute. We were going back into Krishna's time. Absolutely, I talk about
Yes.
Krishna and Radha, the eternal lovers. They are. India is a place of poetry and love. That's what it is. Of course, we have fought wars. It's not that there are no wars, but he was playing. My mom and I, we were just enthralled, and it's his flute is just beyond anything. It's so divine. And
It's
Mr. Das,
mesmerizing.
it's mesmerizing,
Yes.
absolutely. There is such a spirituality to his flute when he was playing it. And I thought a man of his stature would say no, but he's kind enough to say yes when I asked him. And he plays beautifully. He's a beautiful person, and he encouraged me in this. So I'm very, very grateful that Mr. Das is here, and he's going to play some music. He's going to play music with me. And what's very interesting is part of what his spirituality is mixes with some of the poems that I wrote. So that's
Ah,
very interesting.
yes.
And flute is a very ancient Indian instrument, and he plays the flute, bamboo flute. So that's my introduction to him, and then I'll,
Uh,
let.
Doctor, before you go, and maybe Mr. Das can answer this. What kind of flute did you say that was?
This was a bamboo flute, right? It's made out of bamboo. It's
Oh,
not a string.
bamboo. Yes. So it's traditional flute. It's
It's
been
very
used for many years.
very traditional. Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
So it has that spiritual quality in it. And
Yes.
with all the tragic, bad news we are getting every single day, I don't want to read the newspaper. This was so uplifting.
Yes, we need the positivity for sure, the positive energy that we're going to hear. If you don't mind asking Mr. Dustis to move a little bit closer to you, if you don't mind. All
Is that,
right.
yeah,
Well, yes, that's perfect. And whenever he's ready, we're ready to listen, and I'll be quiet
ready to
here.
listen to a little bit of your music. Okay, here. Thank you.
I had muted myself, but that was so beautiful, Mr. Das. That was an incredible piece. Is there a name for that?
It's an old folk. Yeah, folk.
An old folk song, yes.
It's I'll keep you in my heart and I'll never let you go.
Oh, how lovely. Well,
And that's
that
Radha and Krishna, the eros is divine between Radha and Krishna. It's not just physical, it's an erotic, but it's divine. So I'll keep you in my heart, I'll never let you go. Because they're actually the same people. Because most of the, yeah, they're
yeah.
yeah.
And you know that I'm glad you bring that up, Doctor, because one of the things that you do include in your book is these end notes for folks who are not that familiar with the tradition there in India and around India, of course. And so that's wonderful for folks who want to understand where these poems are coming from, what the references that are being made. So yeah, that's so beautiful, and I hope you can hear all of the folks clapping around the world, Mr. Das. So now, Doctor, I'm gonna share my screen, okay, and we're gonna look. First, we'll look at the page where people can find the book, and then we're going to do a few we're going to have you recite a poem or two or three or as many as you want. There's not really anywhere else to go, so we might as well spend it with two talented people such as yourself. Okay, so let's try this. Let's, as we say in the tech industry, let's cross our fingers and hope it works. All right, I think I'm sharing it. Can you see the screen, Doctor?
Yes, I can see the screen.
All right, let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so in order to find the information about the book, of course, we're at Community Publishing's website, and I'll just it's really easy to remember for folks out there, communitypublishing.org, and you know, Doctor, I don't know if I told you this, but we started as a digital. We had this idea, you know, being from New York, kind of knowing that folks were reading a lot on their devices. We started it just as a multimedia uh, a publishing company. So we thought, you know, people were reading on their Kindles and tablets. But then when we put out our first book, we noticed that people wanted the physical book. And so we transitioned in 2015. We started printing physical books. A lot of our books have audio in the physical book, and I want to do that with you and hopefully Mr. Das in the future, where we can incorporate some of the music. And from what I understand, you're going to be reciting your poem while Mr. Das plays in the background, so that's exciting. But here I'm trying to pull up our website. Okay, here it is. I think you can see it. We are running a holiday book drive right
Can
now. I think,
I mention something here?
yes, yes.
Sorry for interrupting you. I did order Freud's couple of books from Amazon and they arrived in India. So, you know, you might check, ask Amazon, why isn't this book going? Because I did receive 5 or 6 books from Amazon India in the last, I think last month.
Yeah, we'll check. I think from what they said was if you're buying books that are already distributed in India, like I'm not sure what the publishing companies or where the books are distributed. Some places in India pre-pandemic already had a stock of books, so they're easy. They can send it. But if the book is coming from, say, you know, England or the United States or Canada, it right now, from what they explained to me, they're not shipping them over. But I don't think that's going to last much longer. So I would definitely recommend for folks to, like I said, you can go to Amazon and you'll see that that the book is there. It's just saying currently not available, and so they explained that to me, that part to me. But in the meantime, and probably we would appreciate it if you came on to our website, and there's a picture of you there, and I'm going to go to where the book is, and Shiva's Dance in Albuquerque, and hopefully it'll pull up here pretty fast. You know, at this time, Doctor, at 9:30 in Albuquerque, everybody's watching Netflix. So, so the broadband slowed down because everybody's streaming. But here's the book right here, as you can see, the beautiful cover, and you add to the cart. So when you buy it from our website, we'll go ahead and send you the digital copy right away. Here's some information about you, and here, what I wanted to show folks is a look inside the book. And there's your ISBN number. Um, and here, Doctor, you've really outdone yourself. There's so many poems here. You were practically giving it away for $10 for it's a holiday sale. There's so many wonderful poems here. So I'm excited to hear you recite some. Um, Here's a poem written in a rainy evening in Albuquerque. And here's that painting there that you did. So yes, people can take a look here. I will also put this this link in the Facebook Live and all of the other assets. But people know it's really easy. Communitypublishing.org. Now, Doctor, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for your poem. Can you tell me which poem you are going to be reciting?
I'll read the first one, and then down Krishna's Agape. Let's first do the first one, and then I'll go to Krishna's Agape.
Okay, great. I'm gonna give me just 1 second here while I pull it up here. We've all had to brush up on our technological skills here while this is all going on. So let's share screen, and then let's see if we can see it here. All right, let me know when you see that, Doctor.
Yes, it's probably the first of the. It is the first one.
Can you see?
Yes, it's there.
Okay, well, I'm excited to hear you, and I will go ahead and mute myself while you get started.
Tonight, the world lay awake with me. As the pale bluish melancholy twilight reluctantly passes into a purplish sombre night. Under a purple gypsy moon, a cat prowls on the dry and dusty street. As 1,000 phantom owls descend hooting like waves of ocean, carrying an early morning sunlight. On their backs with each retreat, the dark clouds lovingly descend on the sun-scorched earth. Soothing her desolate deep pain, it gushes and pours through the moonlight and drenches me with your smell, your touch, your pain, in every drop of warm, fragrant rain.
So beautiful.
The next one that I want to read is...
Well, Doctor, before we move on to the next one, let's talk about this really quick, because when I remember first seeing this one, how it struck me. One of the things that strikes me is being a rainy evening. That's very exclusive here in Albuquerque, because as you know, we don't get a lot of rain. So that moment when we do feel the rain here, it's very it's such a beautiful feeling, and you could smell the rain in the air, So talk to us a little bit about that. How this poem was. How this poem was. How you were inspired to write this poem. Excuse me.
Um, from what I remember, I was going through a lot of emotional pain and struggle at that time. And the rain was very sudden. It was very sudden. I was also worried about my daughter who was camping at that time, that the rain and there was thunderstorm and lightning. And on top of that, there were other problems going on in my life. But then there was a moment when the smell was so beautiful, I cannot compare with anything.
Mm.
The rain started falling bit by bit, and then it covered the mountains. You could see the mountains in the distance, which I can see from my apartment. And it seemed that there is these, the moon and the cat and the owls, they just seemed to appear to me in as if they were passing. There were probably no cats or owls, but they seemed to me that they were coming over and over again, and I was not that lonely. And the rain kind of washed away my pain. That's what I tried to put here.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's beautiful. And it seems in that last stanza how it kind of builds up the way the rain clouds fill, and then it just spills out and washes away your pain. So I think that was beautifully done. That's
Thank
very
you.
beautiful. Okay, doctor. So what's the next one you want to do for now?
I really love this, but there's one more. Krishna's agape. This is page 8 of my copy. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, Krishna's agape. 8. 8. No, 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 you missed it. It's page 8. Further up. Yes, there you go.
Oh, I see now. Yes.
Yes, Krishna's agape.
Yes.
Agape is mainly connected to Christ and Christianity, but I don't see a real difference from one spirituality to another. And I was missing India a lot, especially from where I am. And I wrote this in the middle of that, I transported myself to India and I wrote this. And the word Damaru is what Shiva plays in his hand. It's a little drum.
Wonderful.
Other days I dream of paddy fields, of hungry rivers, of Shalbani. That's like a fir tree. Jambani and Apsaras. Apsaras are celestial dancers. The Damaru plays in my dreams. The Damaru is the musical instrument of Shiva. It's a little drum.
Doctor, let's run through the poem and then we'll go back to the specifics.
Yes, and dreams smudge into one another as Saraswati's cranes and swans fly from my medulla oblongata, chasing one another on the gorgeous New Mexico evening sky as cranes swim down the stream. In the distant, Krishna plays the flute, and the tunes smear the mountain valley and the mountain. A mango drops in my dream. I write on beetle leaves with the red juice of beetle nuts and chew them, and words ooze out. Mango guava dreams. The universe speaks to me on the raga played in the flute. As I dream of love, home, and Krishna's agape, I hear chanting over and over, Krishna, Krishna, Radhe, Radhe.
Yes, yes, this is one of those. Well, they actually, to tell you the truth, they all stand out for me. But I remember coming across this one, and that's why I kind of italicized the title because it flows in a bit of a different direction. So you were explaining to us about the iconography and some of the background. If you want to get into that again, especially in that
Shalbani
first
is like
stanza.
fir, birch or fir, something like that. These are long trees and they are mostly, I think, evergreens. Jambani is also like that. They grow mostly in the tropics in India. Apsaras are celestial dancers. If you go to Angkor Wat temple in Cambodia, they're filled with apsaras. They even have women dancing, actually women dancing. And the damaru is the typical Shiva's little drum. He plays it at the end of every cycle. So it's a dance of destruction. It's at the end of every cycle. The universe comes to an end, and then it again comes creation, sustenance, destruction, creation, sustenance, destruction, creation, sustenance, destruction. He plays the damaru, and the world is destroyed only to be built again, because unless we destroy the old, we cannot create the new. And Saraswati is the goddess of learning. Her bound is the swan. But the cranes for me are the swans. In New Mexico, the cranes are as good as swans. See, I don't
Yes.
think cultures are that different. We are all looking for the same thing. Human beings, we look for love and community.
Right.
Krishna plays his flute, which is again his agape, his universal love. And mango is the fruit that is mostly grown in India. Beetle leaves are also, very Indian things. And beetle nuts are juice with red. They become red. Your mouth becomes red. And when I'm spitting out words, I think of the red beetle juice. And mango, guava dreams, the universe speaks to me, and the ragas are the different notes, combination of notes in Indian classical music. There are different types of ragas that we play in the morning, in the evening. People who have learned sitar and so forth, they know. And this is Krishna's love. Love is what created the universe. And I hear chanting again, Krishna, Krishna, Radhe, Radhe. That is the typical chanting. In every culture we have chanting. I think
Yes.
in the Catholic Church, yes, there was chanting. Now it's no longer there, but is the chanting over and over again. I can hear the universe speak to me. So
Yes. Yeah. There's a kind of a meditation, I think, with chants that that is kind of universal to to all almost all the cultures. So I think that you building those connections and bridging those connections between India and New Mexico, the Southwest. I think there's the very apparent here in what you're doing, and I think it's so wonderful. And then the imagery you use of the cranes, um, it really in the valley and the mountain, it really speaks true to the experiences of New Mexico. You would take if you well, so many people walk to the bosque right now because of the pandemic, and you'll see the birds and the cranes so you're able to bring that to life with your words, and I think a doctor these kinds of works are comforting, and especially through tough times like this where we need this kind of transcendental beauty through words, through art, and through music from Mr. Das uh, are really needed at this time where we need to heal as a human population. And it's so easy to forget that. And I think you did such a wonderful job explaining all this and adding those references at the end of the book. I think that was definitely your idea, and I'm so glad to work with you because of these great suggestions that you had. So I think that's beautiful. I was hoping perhaps we can go back to another piece by Mr. Das, if he doesn't mind.
yes, thank you.
Oh, that was a beautiful piece. Thank you, Mr. Das. That's so wonderful. It's a book release, but we have so many different arts here. And on that note, Doctor, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again, and I'd like for you to talk a little bit about this illustration, this painting that you did. All right. You see that there, Doctor?
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about this painting, this piece of work.
This, actually, I have a very good friend. You can call her my best friend. I visit her whenever I'm in India. And the path that we travel to, the highway on two sides, you see trees like this, and it's green. And that really, strikes me that something that I can put on canvas. So I use pastel. Pastel is my media to do that. It's very beautiful. She works for the mint, which coins the money, paper note like dollars in India. And it's a very prosaic place, but the way to that place is very beautiful. It's very poetic. So that's where it
Yeah.
is, and I remember that.
Yeah, it's one of the things I noticed about it is that, well, you incorporated a certain kind of paper when you used it, and then the piece of art itself has texture on it. And when I read your poetry, it also has the different texture in the poetry, and the layers of words that you use really bring it to life and the 3D aspect, which is why I was excited to work with you. So, Doctor, let's take a look at a couple more poems for you to read. And I would ask you if you get a little bit closer to the microphone. I think that would be there. You go. You let me know which one you want to read.
I opened it. I this is page 14. So you have to go back.
Oh, 14.
Yes.
Here we
It's a
go.
very short one. Again, I was feeling very nostalgic for India and I wrote this, but I will explain this because this has a lot of things inside it. Dreams of my nightly Lakshmi's owl, dreams of my land comes in Behula's boat and drops like cannabis seeds from Mount Kailash, Shiva's eternal abode, into the valley first as my Shushumna realizes energy into a cosmic burst. The Ira and the Pingala releases the knotted energy loop. The sound of Dabaru fills my skin in Shiva's hula hoop. This, actually, you have to know the entire culture to realize what this is. Lakshmi is the goddess of prosperity and her mound is the owl. And what's interesting is owl is connected to Minerva, the wisdom, the goddess of wisdom. And Lakshmi's mound is owl, which is also connected to wisdom. And Behula's boat Behula is an iconic mythological figure. Ganga, the Ganges River, is the heart of India. Without it, we wouldn't have this 5,000-year-old culture. And it says that she swam with her husband's corpse down the river, one of its tributaries, to Shiva, who gave him back his life. So it's a very interesting mythology that she swam the entire tributary to go up to the Himalayas, where Shiva is in Mount Kailash, which is the third highest range after the Mount Everest, and it's currently in Tibet. And
Wow.
when those mythologies were written, there was no Tibet. It was all part of one land. So people say that he lives there. So probably she went with her boat all the way up into the, we don't know how the topography, the geography changed after all these years.
Sure.
So yeah, she went with her husband's corpse and brought him back to life. And into the valley first. Valley, this is of course Sandia Valley, the mountain peak. This is New Mexico. Now Sushumna is very interesting. In the yogic tradition, there are 3 nerve centers which goes from your brain down to down through the spine into your tailbone. And the Shushumna is where the energy rises, the chakras. When the chakra, they are depicted with the petals of lotus. When the chakra is absolutely at the lower level, we have no energy rising. And slowly, as we go up in our yoga, the petals, they sprout open, and they become 1,000 petals when the energy reaches our absolute head, and we become enlightened, we become the Buddha. That's what the Shushumna energy is. And I take it as our enlightenment, a cosmic burst. It's not individual. The Ira and the Pingala are the 2 other nerves which work with the yogic system. One goes up, one goes down. And these also represent to me the river she went up. These are all metaphors. Really, the myths are
Oh,
metaphors. She
yeah.
went up the river to meet Krishna, and he has matted locks and he holds the Ganga. These are all mythologies. When you stay in a culture that's 5,000 years old, you are entrenched in mythology. He holds the Ganga in his matted lock, and the entire energy is filling up my body in Shiva's hula hoop. Hula hoop is also a Native American, it's a Hawaiian culture, so I brought
Hmm.
that also.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's I love the way you bring in the different cultures while discussing something so ancient as this. I think this one's also beautifully done, and it also flows very nicely. And it's one of them that really caught my eye. So yeah, it's very beautiful, and I you do a really good job reciting them, Doctor. And with Mr. Das in the background, I'm tempted to ask you to record some of those, and then we can use that as multimedia for a book. But we can talk about that in the future. I'd like to maybe get one more in to see if we can do that. Oh, and I will say too, Doctor, as you know, these little notes here, these are referencing. There's references at the end with the end notes. So, folks, if folks listening are interested in mythology and well, all these references come from the book, as I said, has a complete end notes that can fill you in, and of course, um, Dr. Mazumdar will have her on the new podcast that will be premiering live stream. It'll be premiering on January 1st. It's called Smart Talk, and we're going to be bringing in artists from different mediums and some film folks to promote art of all mediums that was created in New Mexico. And of course, Dr. Mazumdar is part of that, and so she brings so much knowledge from your own culture, your intellectual knowledge, and of course your artistic gifts. And they culminate in this book, Shiva's Dance in Albuquerque, a book of poems. It's so beautiful, and we're gonna have the doctor and hopefully Mr. Das play one more here while Doctor recites one more poem. Doctor, what poem would you like to leave us with?
This is a little long, but it speaks to Albuquerque, and since this is the last one, I'm going to read it. It's called Apsara's Dance in Rio Grande. Rio Grande is a beautiful river. It reminds me, it's the second poem.
Oh, the second. Okay. Hope I don't give anybody a seizure by hitting the button too fast. Okay. All
There we go.
right. This is, yes,
All
this
right.
is one of the
I'll
seminal
just
poems.
read it without the flute, and then I'll ask you to play the flute after. So,
Okay, that sounds good.
Apsaras descend one by one on the beams of a hallowed twilight as Lakshmi's owl spreads her wings to bring in the solitary night. Apsara silhouettes dance to Krishna's flute under the pale bluish moon. As the owl carries on her back the solitary Krishna tune, the Apsaras follow the descent of the note down, far down the river bed as they splash and float. As the last rays of the fading sun melt into horizon and the earth is ready for a nightly hug, The apsaras dance to the tune of Krishna's flute, to a melancholy Maru Bihag. Some of the apsaras splash in the cool water, some sit on lotus leaves, while some break gleefully to join others who splash and swim upstream. The last rays are yet to go as Indra casts his magical net and Maya slowly spreads over the weary earth, perhaps a little too soon. The apsaras dance to the early morning tune. They often stop and look up to the sky to see white cranes and swans in flocks. A faint glimmer follows them from a million fading stars, and the pale blue crescent moon on Shiva's matted locks. The fireflies tear the darkness of the night and lights the Apsara dance. A sonorous thunder breaks the earth as Shiva's Damaru rose in the valley. The earth, mountains, leaves, and Apsaras all join the cosmic trance. As the first rays of the sun wishes away the mythical, magical night and Aditi glides on in her pale yellow robe, the water splashes on the backs of Saraswati swans and Krishna's tune changes from Behag to Vairav. The apsaras vanish one by one from sight. They melt in the pale morning light as Saraswati swans swim and splatter. Only a faint fragrance of apsara bodies cling to the cool Rio Grande water. Krishna's tune fading as birds fly across the sky. A script of the Apsara dance is written on the pale morning dawn. Who will come with us to the magical land, sings the Apsara band, as the last rays of moonlight give the earth a glance, as the Apsaras vanish like gossamer on thin air in the early morning light. And all that remains is a faint fragrance and a memory of the Apsara dance. I'll ask him to end with a small note. Thank you, thank you. It was awesome.
You know, that happens a lot. Thank you both so much for your
Thank you.
energy, for your spirit, for your talents. Doctor, it's a pleasure to have met you and worked with you. And I'm looking forward to continuing our relationship. Um, I definitely want to, when things clear up, hopefully, I'm sure they will, we'll have a physical version of what went on tonight. But this was beautiful. You know, I'm blown away by Mr. Das and his incredible talents. And I
Oh, yeah.
said, how are we going to get how are we going to find a musician whose talents are equal to the talent of Miss Dr. Mazumdar and her poetry? And I think Mr. Das, your work is so beautiful. It is right up there. So thank you for a lovely evening. Thanks to everybody who joined us. I'm sharing the screen of the website, so you can come on to communitypublishing.org and you'll find the book easily. Um, and as I said, if you buy it from our website, we'll definitely send you the digital copy and the physical copy as soon as it becomes available. If you're overseas, if you're in the United States, of course, shipping will be really easy. Um, and so, yes, I definitely look forward to talking with you again, Dr. Masumdar, and look forward to more work of yours. And I look forward to seeing you in person again. I miss our coffee together, and seeing you and feeling your energy. as a great intellectual artist and person. So thank you so much. You all both
Thank
have a well. It's daytime there in India, right? Everybody's getting up and getting ready to do their thing. Send my best to everybody there. It was beautiful meeting your mother and your brother, and Mr. Das's son. Let's stay in touch. But everyone, thank you everyone tonight.
you. Thank you so much.
Communitypublishing.org. We're so excited. It's called Shiva's Dance in Albuquerque. It's available now, and so please find it and support local art. You will not be disappointed with this book. It's an amazing collection, and it's just the beginning because we are going to have Dr. Mazumdar publish more with us. Even have to
Thank
get
you
on my
so
knees
much.
and beg her. We do have there are some other works, right, Doctor, coming out. I know we looked at a lot of your collection. There's so much there that I think people need to see. And Mr. Das, where can people find your music?
They are on YouTube. I think. They are on YouTube. Yes.
They're on YouTube. That's how I became familiar. So I'll go ahead and share those links as well to Mr. Das's page. You all be safe over there. Please, everybody, we're almost at the end of this, I think. So I think everybody just stay safe and stay courteous for other people and our fellow human beings. And I think that pretty soon we'll all be enjoying poetry readings physically and music again physically from people like Mr. Das. So until
Thank
then, talk to
you.
you all soon. Bye
Have a
bye.
very good night. Bye
Take
bye.
care of yourself. Adios.